Hello everybody, welcome back to the YouTube channel and a new training Tuesday. Right, in today's video we're starting off a little bit differently. It's beautiful outside, 6:30 in the morning right now, and instead of doing my morning cardio on the bike, which I usually do in the garage, I'm taking a lovely little wander around my area. And I must say, this is probably the single best way someone can start a day, and I'm making the most of the UK weather right now when it gets light early, because as you know, if you are a UK citizen and you live in the UK through the winter, you know that it is not necessarily the most enjoyable period of time in terms of weather. So making the most of it and getting my steps in as well, because as you guys know, if you have watched videos where I've mentioned it, I don't really mention it too much, but I'm cutting right now, and the reason I don't really mention it is because that's very contrary to what I film my YouTube channels for and who I coach, right? I don't help people cut, I help people bulk and gain muscle and gain weight. But anyways, enough of that. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through a leg and arm day, right? Leg and arms isn't necessarily, actually I'm going to go this way. Legs and arms isn't usually a day that I do in the gym. However, this is a point I want to make. So next week I am meant to be doing a deload week. A deload week basically refers to a week in time, happens around every 8 to 12 weeks usually, where someone either takes a complete week off the gym and doesn't go, or they basically go to the gym but they do half the weight on the sets, and they do half the reps, and they train at a very low intensity, so nowhere near muscular failure, and they basically just take it easy. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's coming to that period of time for me. I'm approaching my next deload. I'm going to be deloading next week, and I can definitely feel that my body needs it. My sleep hasn't been too great recently, my sessions haven't been the best, and overall I've just been feeling a little bit more fatigued. So you also need to listen to your body. As much as it is time, like it has been now 11 and a half weeks since I last deloaded, so it's due in the calendar, but you've also got to listen to your body, right? I didn't necessarily make the decision to deload just on the fact that it's due in the calendar, but I listened to my body, right? So if you ever feel tired, if you ever feel fatigued, if you ever feel like you're running yourself into the ground, then taking it a little bit lighter, or having a week where you go a little bit lighter, is the best thing you can do in hindsight. Because what a lot of people do is that they push through the wrong type of tired, and they push through the wrong type of pain, if that makes sense. They push through the pain where they feel tired and they should rest, in comparison to the fact that they don't necessarily push through the pain when they're capable of doing a gym session, but they just don't feel like going. There's a difference between the two. There's a difference between feeling really fatigued and almost on the verge of burnout and needing a rest, and there's also a difference from that to you're able to push past the pain, but you just need to find that why in order to do that, right? So there's a difference there, and yeah, I'm basically doing my deload week next week, so that is something that I wanted to touch on. But anyways, in today's video, legs and arms, sorry, just beautiful view, isn't it? Legs and arms. So because I'm combining the two together, and that's actually one other point I wanted to make, right? So if stuff happens during your week out of your external control, and I'm not saying this is out of external control because I'm actually controlling how I'm working out, but as I said, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I don't necessarily want to go to the gym on the days I usually do, so I'm combining the final 2 days in my split, which you can do, by the way. You don't necessarily have to be strict all the time. Obviously you do want to be strict probably 95% of the time, However, that 5%, you can sort of rejig things if you have to, right? If you have a family event coming up, for example, or if you have a full day out planned or something, or if you have a holiday or stuff like that, you can change things up. It's not the end of the world. I think I'm going to stop here. This bench is a little wet, but I don't mind getting a little bit of a wet butt. Right, so where were we? Yeah, so you can change things if you want to, and it is important to realise that. And I feel like that's something that can take a lot of weight off your shoulders as well, just having that acknowledgement that if stuff does happen, you can make the changes and you can be flexible with it. So back to what I was saying, so legs and arms. Because I'm combining the two, I'm going to do 3 exercises for each. So for legs, self-explanatory, I'm going to do 1 exercise for calves, 1 exercise for hamstrings, and 1 exercise for quadriceps. And then for arms, I'm going to do 2 triceps and 1 bicep. Who can tell me why I'm doing 2 triceps and 1 bicep? The reason is because the triceps, A, are bigger than the biceps. They have 3 heads and the bicep only has 2 heads. And B, personally, my triceps I think are weaker than my biceps, so that's why I'm doing 2. But yeah, that's basically it for now. This is the lovely view of the morning, getting myself ready for the session. I'm gonna head down to the gym in an hour and I will catch you guys then. But yeah, I just thought I'd film this intro and explain a little bit. Honestly, if you can go out on a walk in the morning when you wake up, it's probably the best thing to do. I haven't done this in a long time, and it's the best thing I've done in a long time. So if you aren't already, get yourself out there and get on a walk first thing in the morning. Not only does it wake you up, but it gets you off your screen if you're tempted to go on it in the morning. But anyways, I will catch you guys at the gym. If you don't necessarily know me already, my name is Ryan. I just turned 20 years old not too long ago, and over the past 4 years I've been on a journey of transformation myself, taking myself from this in 2021 to getting over 27 kilos and looking like this in 2025. And now I'm on a mission to help as many skinny men break free from their weight and muscle gain struggles. If you want some free coaching from me beyond these YouTube videos, then I have a free community that's going to be the top link in the description down below. We currently just hit 250 members in there. So 250 members just like you who are on the exact same journey. And you know what they say, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. So if you're surrounding yourself with a community of 250 people that are in your situation and trying to change, then change will be inevitable, my friend. Obviously with the right guidance and stuff, but I'm very confident I can provide that. But anyways, I'll let you get back to the video and you can check that out if you want to. Okay, so for calf raises, as you can see, I was doing them single leg. There are 2 reasons why. Number 1, so I don't have to waste time and energy putting loads of weights on, because first of all, the calf machine in my gym is very light, so I just find it a lot easier to do it single leg. And number 2, I feel like I just feel my calf a lot more, and I'm a lot less tempted to use momentum. Because I'm using a lighter weight, I'm more in control of it. Therefore, I'm more liable to sticking to the form and not using momentum and getting more out of the set. Even though you're going to be doing twice as many reps because you're doing it single leg, I think it's a lot more effective, right? So a really good tip for these calf raises, as you can see, I was doing like 1.5 reps. So on my set, you could see that I was going up. So, you know, I was doing a calf raise, right? But then when I was coming back down, I didn't go all the way back down. I did this. And that is what is called the cutler bounce, right? And that is a little technique, and that is a little intensity technique invented by the man himself, Jay Cutler. And it's basically just to pump the blood into the calves, right? So instead of doing a normal rep, just going up and down, what you want to do is you want to do 1.5 reps and count that as 1 rep, right? So 1 rep would look like this. That's 1 rep. So you come up, halfway down, and then back up like that. And one more final tip with calf raises, you want to keep a tiny bend in your knee, right? You don't want to be doing calf raises like that because, you know, fully extending, because you don't want to put yourself at risk of hyperextension and sort of like fucking yourself up and getting injured. So you want to leave a tiny bend, right? So you want it to look not like this, you want it to look like this, right? And a lot of the time on calves, I see a lot of people using their whole legs to push the weight up. However, just imagine that your knees and your upper leg has been completely carved in stone and you can't move it, right? And all you can move the weight with is your lower leg, aka your calves, right? Those little mental tips help exponentially with mind muscle connection. Not too much to say for this one. The only 2 things I would suggest for hamstrings is you want to do your warm-up sets. That's a non-negotiable. Especially with hamstrings, it's really important because, you know, you're dealing with the back of your knee, you know, your ACL, your knee, that sort of territory. So you need to be careful, you need to be safe. You also don't want to go heavy, right? So it's not an exercise where you want to properly be progressive overloading and trying to go heavy. However, you want to be progressively overloading in terms of improving your technique, improving your mind muscle connection, which is going to make you be more efficient with lighter weight, right? And remember, muscle building isn't necessarily about lifting heavy, it's about how heavy you can make the lightest weight feel, right? So 2 tips in particular for hamstrings is number 1, on your with your feet when they're on the pad, right? You want to sort of like flex. This is plantar flexion or dorsiflexion? This is dorsiflexion, I think. You want to basically do this with your foot when you're on the hamstring. Instead of pointing your feet, you want to extend them out like that. And what that's basically going to do is help your hamstring get more of a stretch. So it's just a lot better compared to if you're like this, then your hamstring's going to be tense a lot of the time. But you want to keep it like this so you get more of a stretch. And that's also going to stop you from using momentum, because think about it. If you have your feet like this, if you have your feet pointed like this, then it's a lot easier for you to momentum. However, if you're like this, you're only going to be using your hamstring, right? And it's only your hamstring that's tensed. Also, if you point your feet like that, then you're just going to bring your calves into it, right? Which you don't want to do. That's the first thing. And number 2, right? As you could see, my hip and my glute area was moving the tiniest bit, right? You want to try and minimize that movement as much as you possibly can. And I'm not a 100% perfect example because, to be honest, I don't think you should not move that area at all. However, I'm working on it, okay? So the reason why you want to keep your glute still, because as you could see in the video, my glute was coming up a tiny little bit, and now I've got that bit of video feedback, I'm going to work on it. However, you don't want to be moving your glute because then that just means you're using momentum, taking your isolation off a hamstring. So the only thing that should be moving in that movement is your hamstring doing the curl. Not your glute, not your hips, your hamstring, right? So, now moving on to leg extensions. You may be seeing the blue thing that's on the seat, and I can explain that. So, the leg extension at my gym isn't the best leg extension. They're getting a new one soon, which is fantastic. But for now, I've got to make do. The reason why I say this isn't the best leg extension, because as you can see on the video, the leg extension doesn't come all the way in, right? It sort of stops here at like a 90-degree angle. However, that's not a great leg extension because the stretch, when you bring your quads all the way back here on the leg extension, that is where most of the growth happens, and that is where the set becomes a whole lot more effective. But you just see that my leg extension stops here. So a tactic that I've done, and if your leg extension is the same, I'll just put a mini foam roller or a back pad or a hip pad that people use for like hip thrusts and stuff on the leg extension seat. And you want to put the seat as far back as you possibly can, to the point where your knees are still coming over the edge of the seat, right? And what that's basically going to do is just maximize the capabilities of, just get the most out of it. And it's basically just going to help me get a bigger stretch on the quads, which, my leg extension isn't necessarily great, but as I said, you're making the most out of what you got, you've got to play with the cards you're dealt with. And with leg extensions, once again, you want to keep your feet flexed up, pointing to the ceiling. So when you basically get to this position at the top of the repetition, your quad has maximal squeeze and you're getting all the blood in there. You're fully contracting the quad. And it just means you're going to be in a stricter position. Once again, all of these things contribute to improving your technique and improving your form in the gym, right? And one thing you'll also see, which I should have done on more of my reps, but I did it on the majority of them, is I had my shoulders retracted back and I was leaning back as far as possible, right? What this is going to do, you ask? Put even more stretch on the quads. You got to think about it. If you're laid down like this, right, then you're not necessarily going to be getting much of a stretch on the quads. However, if you're all the way back here, this must look crazy on camera, you're going to get more of a stretch. Right, so that's something else for leg extensions. In terms of JM press, the first tricep exercise that you guys saw me do, it's not necessarily the same, because as you saw, I was moving my elbow. However, you want to make sure you keep your elbow as strict as possible. And as I said in the previous arm video, you want to try and work around your elbow and try and keep it as still as possible, right? So instead of doing a normal chest press like this, you basically just want to go around it with your elbow and push up, right? Imagine it like you're throwing something, but you've got to keep a really strict position, like you're throwing a tennis ball, right? Like that. That's the exact motion you want to have, and you want to make sure the bar comes down to your upper chest, just beneath your chin, right? So get ready to throw the tennis ball, get ready for launch, and then throw it up, right? So in relation to biceps and triceps, to be honest, the same tips apply, right? The main tip for arm growth and arm training is that you cannot be moving your elbows whatsoever, right? As you saw in the bicep curls and the push downs, my elbow was not moving, right? You've got to imagine someone's just stuck a pin through your elbow and it's gone through your body, and now you can no longer move your elbow, right? And you've got to curl as if you've got that pin going and you can't move your elbow, and you've got to push down like that pin is going through your elbow. Just think of your elbow as completely stuck, and that just gets rid of any temptation to use momentum. And another thing as well is make sure you retract your shoulders, right? What this is going to do is put your elbows further back, which is going to even further isolate the bicep and the tricep. Because if you're doing bicep curls like this or like this, then the likelihood of you using momentum and taking the tension off the bicep is going to be a lot higher, right? However, if you retract your shoulders and you do bicep curls like this, or you do tricep pushdowns like this with your elbow further back, then it's just going to be an absolute game changer. Trust me, right? Okay, so that marks the end of that session. As I said, quite a light session, nothing too drastic. On the cusp of doing a deload week, so basically taking some time off as it's been a long time, so no failure. To be fair, some of the sets I did misjudge the weight, however, you know, you're not going to get everything 100% correct. I can just rejig it for next time. And that's another thing as well, quickly, you know, like, if you misjudge a weight and you do too little reps or you do too many reps, it's not the end of the world. At least you've done a set in the first place. Just learn and move on, you know. You're not necessarily going to get it right all the time. And as I've said in many videos, the gym is a lifelong game. So you're going to be learning for the long run. So don't expect everything to be perfect. Like, I've been in the gym for 4+ years myself and I'm still learning every day, right? I'm just trying to think of, it was the other day, I think it was on pec deck for chest. I feel like I've just cracked the code with it and it's been 4 years, right? Not saying I was doing it incorrectly before, but I'm just doing it better, right? So, you know, don't, you know, get so wound up if, you know, you're not seeing the results you want to, or things aren't clicking how you perceive them to be, or if you're not looking like someone you see on social media, fuck it, right? Just keep going, stay in your own lane, and you will fill out your maximum potential, right? There is no way someone will fail if they give it time and if they show up and do the hard work consistently, right? Because with the consistency, they will start to just naturally increase their knowledge. They'll start to surround themselves by people who do the same stuff. Therefore, knowledge, practice, experience, it's all going to go up. Therefore, you're going to do the right things anyway. So all you've got to do is just give it time, patience, because that is all it is, truly. And the people that fail, they don't give it enough time. They want the results snappy, but it doesn't happen. So you've just got to give it time. But, you know, like, I do say give it time and all of that stuff, but don't give it time in terms of, like, think it's going to be a miserable fucking few years, right? Enjoy the journey, because the journey, it's amazing, right? It's a beautiful journey. I wish I could go back to the times where I would go into the gym with my mates for the first time, and there's like a group of six of us, and, you know, we were just having fun, and we're all on a bench press, just chatting. Great times, right? Just enjoy the moment, be present, and enjoy the journey. Despite whether you are where you are or if you're not where you want to be, just be happy, put a smile on your face, and have fucking fun. But that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I really appreciate your time. I'm going to go back home now and enjoy my post-workout meal, because I have not had anything to eat today. I'm actually fasted. I don't usually fast my workouts, but because today's a lighter session, I thought why not? And because I'm cutting, I've got less calories to up within a day, so I thought, you know, why not? I can have more calories now, which is absolutely beautiful, right? But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, drop a comment down below. Also, if you want to stay around, I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So if you want to, you know, stay around, hit that red button somewhere down below this video. But as I said at the beginning of the video, if you want free coaching from me and you want to check more out beyond these YouTube videos from me and see how I can help you, then I've got a free community that's in the top link in the description. I'd absolutely love to have a one-to-one chat with you and see your progression, right? And join the other 250 people in there. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.